I guess just for starter, Ric Waldman, tell us how you ended up owning, half interest in Resilience?
Half interest in Resilience. It was an unexpected gifting from Marty and Pam Wygod, with whom I've been associated for many years and developed really close friendships with them. And I've worked as a consultant and advisor for them for all these years, and I almost feel like with my ownership I'm just continuing that. Obviously I feel a little closer and a little more deeply involved by owning it, but I still feel like I'm a steward for the Wygods on this horse. And it's a very deep, meaningful ownership for me.
So this was just out of the blue. They said, here, we're giving you and our daughter this horse.
Yes.
And what did you think?
Well, my first thought was, gosh, that's just amazing. Now, the horse was still a maiden. He'd made 3 starts, and he was still a maiden, although they were against some really good company, Locked and Stronghold, and I forget who the other, Nash. Those are the 3 horses that beat him. And then my next thought immediately turned to, I can't deal with and manage this horse like Marty has. Marty was very much hands-on even from a distance. I'm telling you, Marty seemed to pour his soul into making sure all the right things were done with this horse. Marty was a deep thinker and a deep planner.
Was this horse different than his other horses? Did he have a sense about this horse?
I think he did. You know, I knew he was a good horse because Marty quoted Bill with a chuckle when he told Bill that he was doing this. And Bill's words, and this sounds like Bill speak to me anyway, so I know Marty had it accurately. Why'd you do that for? That's what Bill said to Marty.
When he gave
you
the horse?
So that told me he was a good horse.
Oh.
Why'd you give a good horse? You only give away a bad horse. Marty would only, in this kind of situation, he would give only a good horse. So he had a lot of promise for this horse and was never discouraged by those losses. And of course, immediately, a couple of days later, he breaks his maiden in the Gulfstream race. Then we're, as everybody with a 3-year-old, we're thinking, well, let's see what he could do on the Derby Trail. And then we thought of the Risen Star, and which turned out to be a very key prep when you look at the top 5 finishers and how they fit into the Derby picture. So then we thought, well, we'll go further, and Marty's planning on going further. We had some really good discussions about it, and it all panned out. We're really happy.
You were around a lot of Derby horses when you were the main advisor to W.T. Young and managed Stormcat's career, including Grindstone, who wasn't by Stormcat, was by Unbridled. But what's it like having, with your name on the program, having a horse after being involved with so many of them?
If I were younger, I'd be just totally over the moon about it, and I'm still really excited. But again, as I said earlier, I'm just carrying on what the Wygods have put out there. Sure, I'm really happy to see my name listed. I mean, everybody's got a little bit of ego involved in that. But I don't take it as seriously if I had bought him or bred him or something like that. I still feel like Emily's a great partner. We've been, I've known her for 20 years or more. So that's easy to do, but I don't feel that much of an ownership like you might think that I do. It's going to be fun, and the best part about it is I can bring my kids in town, and we're going to have a fun time. We're going to have a good time.
Can you talk a little bit about how you got to know Marty? Because I had heard that it was through him sending some of his great mares to Stormcat, and kind of the relationship came from that.
It did. Marty was real keen on, Marty only wanted to breed to the best, and instead of, like a lot of people say, well, let's breed a mare or 2 to this stallion, Marty is all in. So Marty wanted to breed 4 or 5 mares. And I was talking to him about it. In fact, the one mare that he wanted to send at the time in Stormcat we were very selective because you only had so much product. We didn't breed stallions then like we breed them today. And so I had to limit. everybody to let everybody in and try to get all the right mares. So he wanted to breed a mare, Sweet Life, to him, and I said, Marty, I really don't think she's good enough. And of course, she ends up producing Sweet Catamine and Life is Sweet. So how smart am I? So I think Marty, we got into a lot of discussions about his mares and that kind of thing, and it just evolved from that he hired me. And as I did with all my early relationships, I knew and felt confident that I could prove my worthiness. And we communicated well. We really had great discussions, especially later in life. We had, it developed into more of a friendship than a consulting relationship as years progressed.
Now, does resilience trace back in the pedigree to Sweet Life? That's the
no,
but
it's a different family. Russell Drake, who was Marty's longtime farm manager in California, had a really good eye for a horse. So Marty would tell Russell to go to the sale and buy some fillies. So he picked out Tranquility Lake, who was the second dam of Resilience. And she was a Rahi mare. She was a big Rahi mare. Rahi was a short stallion, and this was she was a really big mare and a really good race mare. And so we bred her, gosh, I don't know how many foals she had, and they were all colts. And I think her last foal, if I'm not mistaken, or close to her last foal, was the Dam of Resilience. And she was by Smart Strike. Her name was Meadow Sweet. And and then her family traces back to a Belmont winner, Caveat. So it's a really good pedigree. It really lays out well. So I'm always thinking about breeding, so I'm excited about his next career, but I'm sure as I get ahead of myself many times, Emily's thinking about this career.
Yeah, well, so speaking of, it's like 9 days out from the Derby. Do you look at the other horses? And when you were out there watching him train, are you watching the competition?
Yeah, I did. I'm not as concerned about him. All I'm concerned about, it's funny, I said before the Risen Star, I was on Steve Bick's show, and I said, all I care about right now for this race is that he proves he belongs. And he did. He did prove that he belonged in that race. So all I'm really concerned about in this race, I really want to win it. Don't get me wrong. Anybody who's entering a horse in the Derby wants to win it. I want him to run a really good race. I want him to run his race. I think he's an improving colt. They're all improving. But I think we're improving more than the average Derby entrant is proving. And I just want to see that he can show everybody how good he is. And if he wins, I mean, we won't be shocked, we'll be excited. But as long as he proves he belongs, then we're going to go and prove more. You know, that's our goal.
What was that like being at the Wood Memorial? I assume you were there.
That was exciting. That was really exciting. Me, although Aqueduct was kind of dreary anyway, but and it was a dreary day. But I thought I thought he belonged. It was a great spot for him. You get 100 points and didn't have to beat quite as tough a field as some of the other prep races were. And he just ran a better race. Again, an improving race over what he finished well. John Velasquez rode him brilliantly. Even after he got squeezed a little bit on the first turn, he took him back. The horse had become very manageable for him. And so that's what gets us going to this race, is how well he ran in the Wood. And to say we're excited, that's an understatement. You know.
You were very entrenched in the industry before Stormcat came alive. But Stormcat certainly did a lot for you, including ultimately putting you on the path to getting this
Interesting
horse.
Story about Stormcat. And I wish I could remember the virus that was EVA, or I forget what the name of the virus was. and all horses had to be tested for this disease, for this virus. And if they tested positive, they were relegated. The Keeneland had the July sale then. They were relegated to tail end of the sale. And Mr. Young, he wanted to enter Stormcat in the sale. Now, whether he would have sold him or not is another question. But he didn't want to be relegated to the tail end of the sale. So he said, well, I'll just race it. So he just raced it.
So started the empire.
Because
he was at the end of the sale.
I mean, speaking of an empire, we could go on ad nauseum about Stormcat's impact on the breed, but when you look at, today's leading sires, and I mean, Into Mischief, Harlan's Holiday, Harlan, Stormcat, what does it mean to you, to be here with Resilience, who is, an example of that continuing legacy?
Oh, I don't care how far down the line you want to go with the Stormcat influence. I take a great deal of pride in that. Probably more pride because I feel like I had something even remotely to do with that. And that was the basis of my career, was doing that kind of thing, managing stallions, consulting on breeding. And so that's really the whole history of my time here. So I get a great deal of pride. Same thing, I've managed deputy minister. And I every time I see deputy minister in the blood of horses, I take a great deal of pride in that too.
And now you can't wait to see the blood of Resilience in future.
I really can't. He is such a striking horse. He really is. Again, Emily's going to temper me to be thinking so far ahead. I just can't wait to see his offspring, because I just see what he's going to really impress breeders when they see him.
And especially the way sons of Into Mischief have lit up at stud so far.
Yeah, I see him, and he's adding another dimension to it, because it's he's one that's going to like the two turns. He has already shown that, and that's a great deal of influence on the female side.
You would think that there's turf in there as well, even though it's latent.
I got to tell you a great story. So early in the career, Marty wanted to try him on the turf, and I said, well, Marty's handling the dirt so well, you only want to go to the turf when you can handle the dirt. We went over and over and over on this, and I said, we can always try him on the turf, and I feel confident as well, as Marty did, that he would have loved the turf. I still think he would. I see no reason to do it now, but Smart Strike had liked the turf. Tranquility Lake was a good turf mare. There's no reason he won't like the turf. But why?
And then where he could be a versatile sire, where even if he never runs on it, he could produce it.
I really think he'll be when his stud career is looked back upon, I think you'll see that he'll be a kind of one of those double-pronged stallions.
I just wanted to ask you about the death of Marty Wygod. Was that like a complete shock? I mean, and it's just
he hadn't been well. So it wasn't. What really pleases me is that he was able to see the wood. Pam was in the hospital with him, and she got it on the phone, and I was able to talk with him after the wood. So it wasn't a shock, but it's a loss. When someone dies, however you expect it to happen, it's the bit of closure, and it allows you to look back on that person's history and in my case, my history with Marty. So I have those memories, but I miss him. We talk so much on the phone, especially the last few years, that my phone, I don't get the rings anymore from him. I was saying at the memorial service that we would talk for 20 or 30 minutes, and then Pam interjected, "You mean hours?" And we would talk for hours, and that's a void. I don't have a filler for that void. And our conversations would be not just about horses, be about business, politics, anything under the sun. He cared about my family. He cared about anyone's family who was close to. He was the most caring, and he wanted to know about me because he wanted to put himself and throw himself into that caring position that he naturally had. I mean, it's just a huge loss to any of us who had any closeness with him at all.
Was that the last time you spoke to him after the Wood?
Yeah.
Did he talk about the Derby at all?
I don't remember. He was after me. I was telling him last year that I was dating someone, and he could tell that this was quote unquote the real thing, but he could tell that we had a good relationship going. And he kept hounding me. He says, "Have you asked her to marry you?" And I said, "Marty, she won't marry me." I said, "She doesn't want to get married." I said, I've tried that. And so every time after that, he'd ask me at various times, "Well, now's your time." So on the phone conversation from the Wood, he said, "Now is your best chance to get her to marry you."